Hey, I'm Kailan, and I'm here with
Mila.
and we're here to talk about Thea 2. So, Thea 2 is kind of one of those games that kind of skirts underneath a lot of attention, I think. So, could you describe what it is?
Yes, of course. So Thea 2, as with Thea 1, is a turn-based strategy survival game with elements of role-playing, rich story, all set in a dark fantasy world inspired by Slavic mythology and folklore. It's a mouthful.
No, it's like really interesting. It's like why I kind of got into it, because it's like, even though it is fantasy technically, it's very low fantasy, you know, which for those who are familiar with the original Thea, you know, it's very similar to that, but for those people, what is different between Thea 1 and Thea 2?
So we're going to keep the same tone, so it's still going to be Thea, it's still going to be a dark, dangerous world, but you're going to start with a more of a survival feel, in a sense that it's just going to be one or two of your people with a stick and a flint trying to make it. And then eventually you're going to be able to build more than one village. So you start earlier, but you're going to be able to progress further. We're not going to reach any sort of empire building stages or anything like that. That wouldn't be Thea, but you are going to have the ability to place your village somewhere, which is something that players really wanted from Thea 1. And yes, you're going to still be exploring the world, setting up camps, setting up other villages, hopefully. You're going to have boats, which is also a big change, so you can actually swim from place to place and you don't have to go around the lakes. It is actually going to be islands, because as the title suggests, the world has shattered into pieces, so now everything is actually split by a sea. So sea monsters and things like that will also come in. What else? Well, there's going to be a co-op of probably 3 people, might be 5, we haven't quite decided yet, but the co-op is going to be integrated from the start, so you're going to be able to quest together, you're going to be able to do challenges together, so that should be exciting. Moding tools are going to be much improved, so if you can code yourself, you can even add additional races, classes, anything, so that's going to be available from the start, as well as the events editor, and all the quests are going to be in there, so you can actually change even the core quests, unlike in Thea 1, so we really want the players to be able to just mess around with the game as much as they want. Other than that, obviously visual style, as with sequels, you know, you try to improve. So we had black and white cards in Thea 1, now we're going to have coloured, and just a general improvement of 3D models. So we're really trying to have the card characters reflected in the 3D models as much as we can. Yeah, I think I've covered most of the major differences. So it's going to be a lot of the Thea feeling, but hopefully improved, bigger, better, grander.
So another change I think you didn't mention was that the card game has been overhauled severely. Could you talk about that?
That, of course, is also a major change in Thea 2. Yes, so the card game. So we've been working on the card game very hard to make it more tactical. So we still want it to be a challenging experience, a complex experience, but we want the entry level to be much lower. Because I think with Tier 1 people were a bit scared of the card game. I think it alienated some of the players, and we didn't like that. We don't want people alienated. So this time we're going for something that is going to be clearer. We've actually streamlined the skills for each challenge. So, you know, in Tier 1 you actually had so many different skills for the different challenges. It was actually really hard to keep track of them. So we've got 3 challenge types, or 3 essential challenge types now, which is going to be the physical, spiritual and mental. And this way you can probably plan your battles better, plan your parties better. You know, you don't have to remember like 20 skills, you know, you can focus on a smaller number. So yes, the card game is definitely a big change. Thank you for that.
So, because I remember it before, you just like put cards in like a linear line and then they fight the one before it, or it was kind of confusing for me. Could you go into more depth of how the card game works?
Yeah, so the idea remains simple. So you had your fighter hand and you had your support hand. So what we've done now is you actually have 2 rows. So your first row will be the melee line, and your second one will be the support line. So you play your cards and you choose whether you want them to be supporting or melee. Obviously the melee take the most damage, but they're also the ones that attack most. And then in support you can have archers, you can have folks who have special magic skills and things like that. Now we're also making it more tactical in the sense that you see the initiative queue on the right side of the screen. So and your cards actually have what's called a delay skill. So say your warrior has delay of 5, and each round of setting up you add delay to it, and so you can plan, all right, so if I play my warrior, he's going to have delay 6, so he's going to go first. If I play him again, he's still going to get in there and play before the enemy, or we really want people to have more control of their initiative, which is, I think, was a big problem with Thea 1. Like you said, you never quite knew who's gonna do what.
Yeah. It kind of seemed a bit random for me.
Yeah.
So yeah. The other inclusion was like this idea where, as you place your piece down, you can decide, okay, what attack are they going to do? Like an option of 3. Will they start off with just 3 attacks, that's all it is, or will you have to unlock more? Will you be able to change them in and out, equip them?
What they have now is they have skills. So weapons have their assigned skills. So like similar to Thea 1, for example, hammers will have the skill to hit multiple enemies. But they can also have special skills, and your characters can have special skills. So they will start with a set, and then as they level up, you can actually buy skills for them. Although this is all work in progress, so we'll see how that will work going forward. But that's our plan, to have slightly more control over how you level up your folks, and how, again, that then helps with planning your combat and that sort of thing. So it's slightly different from Thea 1.
So you said about giving people more agency in terms of like combat and that kind of thing. When you start the game, you said you start off with 2 players. Are these randomly generated, or will you be able to create them?
Well, it's actually not a set of 2. It could be 1, it could be 2. What you start off with is you'll have what we call God points. We might change that name. For now, it's God points. And for those God points, you can spend them on characters. So your basic human, I believe, will be free. So your basic sort of worker human will be the free character. But you can upgrade him to a warrior or an advanced class, or if you have more God points, which you will get each playthrough from, like a bit like experience points, but for your god rather than in-game. So then you can buy like an orc or an elf, and different gods will, for example, have discounts for certain races or classes depending on the god. So we really want to, the idea is you could potentially finish the game with just 1 character. So with the card game, that's also actually a big difference. You can play the cards or the characters' skills more than once on the table. So you can say you have your 1 orc warrior, you can literally just put everything into him, equip him and give him pets. That's another new thing. We'll have pets. See, all these new things coming out.
I know, it's so packed.
It's great. But yeah, the idea is you can either play as 1 hero just exploring the world, or you can, like with the have a group of followers to play around with. So yeah, it depends how many god points you have, how your gods are leveled up. They will also give you more options, so more customization in that direction.
Okay, and yeah, I mean, I do remember the god system that was going on, where you would pick a god at the beginning of the game, and depending on your performance, you'd level it up, and they would give you like buffs and tweak things. Will we be facing the same gods, like be able to pick the same ones, or will there be new ones, or
it's a mixture. Some gods are returning. There's going to be a storyline to say why some gods are returning, and some have mysteriously disappeared from the pantheon. There are some new ones, and you'll also find out, how they made it into the pantheon. And hopefully, maybe going forwards, maybe some will come back, maybe not. I can't spoil things.
Fair enough.
But yeah, essentially you will see some differences, but you will also see familiar faces. Yeah.
Sweet. So you mentioned about how some of the gods would be returning and some won't be due to the Shattering. Could you describe like the new narrative that people will be slowly unveiling?
Yeah. So a couple of centuries have gone past since the Long Night and since the Awakening. So for a while things were going well, and then for unknown reasons, literally the earth shattered. So we are now faced with a land that is in basically, I'm going to repeat shattered now, which is not good. Broken into pieces. That's what I was looking for. It's broken into pieces, into little islands, into little torn bits everywhere. And the thing is, it's still shattering. So it's not something that's just happened and it's all fine now. So you will literally have like the earth splitting in front of you. You will feel the shatters, and your job, as with the Awakening, whether you choose to follow it or not, will be to figure out why the Shattering came and is there a way of stopping it. So I don't want to spoil too much of the story beyond that, but yes, there's a new evil rising, and you as a god will probably want to face it.
So you mentioned that a couple of centuries have passed since the original game. Will of technology moved on? Has it gone into the past because has it regressed because everything's gone absolutely wrong and become chaos? What will tech tree generally look like?
Yeah, it's generally that kind of fantasy thing where technology hasn't moved on because of the cataclysm. So things were starting to build back up, but the world sort of went to pieces again. I almost swore there. And so yeah, so technology again was stopped by that because you're more worried about surviving and not finding yourself, falling into a hole or being eaten by someone. Also, another new thing we have in Thea too is factions. So you actually meet proper factions of people rather than just random creatures sort of walking about. So and because it's Thea, they can be quirky factions. So you could have a faction of bees, where the queen bee will be the person you talk to and have diplomatic relations, and she might have human workers working for her because because it's Thea. It's a game where you could marry a boar. So it's like that happens. That's just the way it is. So yeah, they all want to survive just as much as you, and they want to take your land. If you found a good piece of land, they likely want to take it away from you. So yeah, technology hasn't progressed because it's too much about survival still.
While you're trying to make sure that everything coexists and you survive and so on, and you're expanding new lands and you're building new towns, how will you manage these additional towns?
Well, that's going to be the challenge. And it's kind of purposefully going to be a challenge because we don't want people to end up with like 50 villages. So every village will actually have extra costs to build because we want to show that it is, for the reasons you mentioned, it is going to be difficult to sustain more than one settlement at a time in this dangerous world. So yeah, you are going to have to juggle things. You're going to have to spend more god points and things like that to support them. So it's not going to be an easy thing. It's not going to be an easy option to have more than one settlement. So we're trying to incorporate that into the mechanics of the game and make sure it's clear from the lore and from everything that it's if you go that way, it's not you're going to have to face your own challenges. And as with Tier 1, there's going to be events and things that happen to your settlements, and you're going to have to obviously have people in those settlements. So then if the more settlements you have, obviously you're splitting your party up and opening them up to more dangerous. But then you will have more production, you will have better buildings and so on. So it's hopefully we will balance it so that it's It's a good option, but it's not an easy option. That's what we're aiming for.
Okay. So, judging by that, so there's not really much value in building tall. So, like building more upgrades, just building into one town, making it as prosperous as you can. It's always about trying to build wide, trying to build 3 towns or more if you can.
Hopefully, I don't think it shouldn't end up like that in Thea, because Thea isn't about sort of empire building. So in Thea, we do want to, again, make it an attractive option to build more than one if you want to, but definitely not the best option. So having one strong settlement might still be the best thing to do for your play style, but considering that you have islands, it might make sense to set up on a different island and have an actual settlement rather than you having to travel, you know, through water and everything. So it's a balancing act, but Thea isn't aiming to be civilization by any stretch of the imagination. We always call both of them pre-civilization. It's a pre-civilization thing.
Yeah, it's all about just surviving, just making sure the town survives, not prospering, just surviving.
It's like when you hit the point where you would start to prosper, that's when you win. You know, that's when you've given your people enough security so that you can imagine them, oh, okay, now they will prosper because I've done all these things.
Yeah. So say you worked on, played Thea 1 loads, you've upgraded your gods, you've gone really well for yourself. Will you be able to transfer your save to Thea 2, maybe get extra perks and bonuses?
No, you can't transfer anything. I mean, it's hundreds of years in the future, the gods themselves have changed, the world has changed. So no, unfortunately, you have to start from the beginning.
All right. So will Thea 2 be PC only, or will we be seeing it?
For now, all we can say for sure is that it is going to be a PC Steam release. We are up on Kickstarter, and one of the goals will be consoles, so depending how the Kickstarter does, we might be able to push it to consoles. But yeah, it's definitely going to come out on Steam PC.
Mac and Linux?
It's going to be a similar thing to Thea 1. We're going to do our best to have it on Mac and Linux, but we'll likely not have official support for it, just because we do have our one programmer, and he's got his limits. I mean, he's a robot, but he's got his limits.
Yeah. I mean, porting can be a bit tricky, so yeah, I understand.
But we will do our best to support Mac and Linux like we did with Thea 1.
So you got your Kickstarter starting soon. Do you know when that will be?
Oh, it's already started. It started on Monday. We're about halfway, a bit more than halfway towards our goal, so fingers crossed. So yeah, check out our Kickstarter.
Where can people find the Kickstarter?
Just on the Kickstarter page, you know, punch in Thea 2, it should come up there, or actually go to our website, MuHaGames.com. Check out our Facebook, Twitter. We try to tweet and post about it all the time, so you probably can't miss it. We've posted it on Steam forums as well. So yeah, just check out any of our social media avenues, and it'll be there.
Sweet, thank you.
Excellent, thank you very much.